I fell in love with Mass Effect, I fell in love with Dragon Age, and I fell in love with the Horizon series because of the story, mainly. Of course, the characters as well, but mainly the story. And because of how detailed it was, how well it was done, etc. And over time, some of the, let's say, franchises have evolved in a better way, and some have evolved in a worser way. Let me put it that way. And I'm pretty sure Dragon Age the Veilguard is a good example for everybody on where the franchise can end if it's not really going in the best direction. And I was hoping for Horizon not necessarily to go into the same style or direction as well. I do have to say, probably it sounds naive for you, but I do have to say I was avoiding all the spoilers and everything like crazy because I really wanted to play Horizon Forbidden West for myself. So I did play Horizon Zero Dawn. As you know, I am a PC player, so I had to wait for the PC release, and that was later than for the console players, so it was really hard sometimes to avoid the spoilers, to be honest, because when the games came out, it was like the net was full of it, especially if you are looking into information about the games. And I was trying to avoid everything. I wanted to play it myself, so I started to play Horizon Forbidden West in 2025, as you remember. And I stopped the playthrough on the channel because I had really not the best experiences with me posting gameplay videos on the channel. It was really like bad for the algorithm and for the statistics and everything. So I stopped the playthrough on the channel, but that doesn't mean I didn't like continue with the playthrough on my own separately. And I currently have finished already Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm playing through the DLC. And as I said, I was hoping in the beginning that the franchise will not evolve into the same DEI-infested Vogue Fest as, for example, Dragon Age did. And unfortunately, I'm noticing it did. Not in that same extent, and of course there are many positive things on the game, so when I'm doing the review I will try to be, let's say, more objective. But why I'm talking here on the stream about it is because there are some subjective observations which I would like to mention. I know that there are people who are saying that Guerrilla has always been, let's say, woke, etc. I would disagree. Not necessarily. And for Horizon Zero Dawn, the game, when you played it for the first time, sure, it did have some, let's say, diversity in it, but it was well explained, it was well woven into the story, the characters were really well written, and in general the main character also was like very likable. She was kind of awkward sometimes in social situations, let me put it that way, but that's not a surprise with her background. So everything was well explained. The story was what impressed me the most, and of course the visuals and the whole idea of the game. And that's why I fell in love with the franchise. And now when I started to play Horizon Forbidden West, I have already noticed from the beginning that there are some changes. Now some things are now better, so when I finished the game I have seen, okay, it was just the first impression and then it got better during the game. What didn't really get better was, let's say, this DEI checkbox system, as I have noticed. So it is very clear that the game was created during the height of the DEI checkbox systems, as I say, so you have to have this and this and this in the game and just check. So they didn't avoid that, unfortunately. And I also think it's because Sony had a bigger influence now on Guerrilla than they did in the beginning when they released Horizon Zero Dawn. So Forbidden West is kind of more influenced also through the, let's say, political lens of Sony. I will put it now as a joke, but I have to say, for me, what was really let's say funny was that during Horizon Forbidden West you realize that there is an even bigger threat threatening Earth that is now coming. It will be part of the third game, and that will be Nemesis. That will be probably the main antagonist, of course. For whatever reason it wants to destroy Earth. Okay. aside from that story point, when you go through the game and if you go through the main storyline only, it's not so, let's say, permeated with this DEI checkbox system. The moment you start to do side quests, you notice every second couple is like gay or LGBTQ plus something, and then there are of course also trans characters, and there's even a disabled character. Yes, it's Kotalo, and I have to say, okay, it's one of the main characters currently actually, but I have to say he's well written, so I cannot really criticize the character for being a disabled character. His whole personality is not just that. So it's not that stupidity that we are seeing in so many other medias and games, that the whole point of the character is just to represent something. No, he's very well written actually, and this is just one little part of his character, I would say, okay? But it's still... It was like really going through the checkbox. Ah, yeah, there's also a disabled character, and then there's this character and this character, okay? And I was in the end already laughing, like, okay, the only thing that I'm missing in the game is a character with vitiligo or vitiligo, I don't know how you pronounce it. Yeah, then I went into the DLC where I'm currently, and boom, there it was. So it's like all of the checkboxes are completely fulfilled, and sometimes it's really in your face. So the change for me between Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West in this part, it's some characters are all only about this. It's their whole like characteristic, personality. There's a guy who's looking for some of his warriors in a side quest, and he already starts with, yeah, I'm a man wearing women's clothes. Like, oh, come on. There's so many things. It was just so in your face, and that was really uncharacteristic for me in the Horizon game, and it was very, very, very noticeable, unfortunately. You don't need Nemesis, just let the people in that post-apocalyptic Earth die out, because there's no straight couples left. Okay, so yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to say. And I'm seeing Olivia is writing, I like that there's some characters in games that are well written and are more than specific characteristics. That's something that I have to like highlight here again. Like I said, for the most part, the characters were well written. The story is still good. It's not necessarily so great anymore for me as it was in the first game, but the characters are still well written. But in some of the side quests and in some of the side characters, you can see it's really not so great as it was in Horizon Zero Dawn. So I really hope that they will tone it down a little bit, because it partially it wasn't so fun anymore to do the side quests. It was like, not again, not yet another alphabet person. Let me put it that way. So yeah. Okay, John is saying, oh yeah, the surviving remnants of humanity would indeed search out dead-end barren relationships. How do you want to procreate? You had only a certain amount of people that you could bring back after humanity wiped itself out. And that's where Horizon Zero Dawn starts, that an AI brings back people from embryos, they gestate them, and you only have a limited number of embryos or people whom you can preserve for the future. So if you would have so many LGBTQ plus people there in the populations, I don't really see a very big increase in the population over time, to be honest. I do have to laugh because Guerrilla said when they made the first game, and people were complaining that there is no romance in Horizon Zero Dawn, and they said, okay, they thought the situation in the game, in that in-game universe, is so important for the main characters to focus on that, to resolve the main conflict, so that any romance would have been kind of like a distraction, and they didn't want to do this because they really wanted to focus solely on the main storyline and resolving that, what was happening. And they say they will probably not do any romances because that's not what Horizon should be about. Boom, here's the second game. The second game has a DLC. What is the DLC about? Aloy is gay. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I mean, I just have in my mind, you know, the scene from South Park when they were making fun of Kathleen Kennedy. Put a chick in it and make her lame and gay. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about when I was seeing the stuff here. So they were saying there is no romance, and then they make the romance and basically, yeah, make it gay because LGBTQ plus whatever. Like I said, the overall representation, I don't have a problem with these characters if they are well written and if it's like in line with how common it would be, etc. I mean, worldwide there's like 9% of people who are LGBTQ plus. I think there was like somewhere in a recent study or Gallup or whatever. And yet you see, I don't know how many percentage in the media, and it's just after so many years when we see this over representation, it's just, you kind of start to be oversensible towards it. So I just don't want to see it everywhere. It doesn't, and not every second character needs to be gay. Okay, for me the worst part is exactly that one. If you make a game and you say you will not put in any relationship because the story should be more important, and it is a world-ending potential there for the world to end that the main character has to resolve as the game's conflict. If you want the people to focus on that and you say there will be no romances, and then suddenly, bam, you slam one into the game just because you need another tick box, yeah, that's when it doesn't really make me so happy. So that's why I'm maybe complaining about it so much. So there is, of course, the Horizon Hunters Gathering, which came out in the meantime. I did make a video about it and I did mention it. And it is the reason why we will see the third game delayed, which wasn't making me that happy, to be honest. And I just wanted to point out here that, of course, because the game isn't really out yet and there is like no official review yet, there are just Steam curators who have looked into the game and they have made a couple of observations. And I had to laugh because if you look at Horizon Hunters Gathering, so it's full of not recommended and forced the diverse cast, including a fat woman. Okay, bonus track, it's a shameless clone of Monster Hunter. Not recommended. Oh no, it's Vogue. This is getting boring. I give up on this stupid industry. So yeah, you can see that most of the stuff is either not recommended or just like informational, and most people are mentioning that the game, even though it's a multiplayer, not part of the original trilogy, it's Vogue as hell. And that's what I meant in the beginning, that I'm not really fond of seeing the whole franchise evolving into the same direction as Dragon Age. I'm really not fond of that, because I started to like the franchise and the first game because of, let's say, how neutral it was, and now it's just getting more and more like a list of DEI checkboxes that's being ticked instead of really making a fun game with a good story. So I'm hoping that this is not the direction in which the third game will be evolving, because if yes, then I'm not even sure anymore at this point if I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest.